Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we dig into the big ideas that, well, still resonate today, giving you that shortcut to being really informed. Today, we're tackling something that feels both old and surprisingly modern: efficiency, but specifically the waste of human effort.
Yeah, President Theodore Roosevelt pointed this out way back. We worry about forests, coal,
Right?
but he said the biggest wastes are often less visible, less tangible, human effort.
That really sets the scene perfectly for our focus today. Frederick Winslow Taylor's 1911 book, The Principles of Scientific Management.
It's a big one.
It is. And it's not just, about factories and machines. It was a fundamental rethink of how people work together.
Absolutely. Our mission today is to unpack Taylor's ideas, some revolutionary, some, frankly, controversial.
We want to get into his core principles, see how they were actually applied sometimes in really surprising ways.
And hopefully uncover some insights that might make you think differently about productivity, work, maybe even how you tackle your own day.
Yeah, like why do people sometimes hold back, even when they mean well? And what does it really take to unlock, extraordinary results?
Exactly. We're going beyond the cliches of Taylorism here.
Okay, so let's start where Taylor started. With this problem he saw everywhere, he called it soldiering.
Right, soldiering. And he didn't just mean, like, taking it easy.
No, he defined it as deliberately working slow, doing maybe only 1/3 to 1/2 of a proper day's work. He called it the greatest evil.
That's strong language. And he saw it across the board, factories, building sites, everywhere.
It makes you think, doesn't it, about, modern stuff like quiet quitting or disengagement. It's not a new problem.
Not at all. And Taylor really dug into why. He saw two types. First, there's just natural soldiering.
A tendency to take it easy.
Pretty much,
Oh.
yeah. Human nature, maybe. But the bigger one, he thought, was systematic soldiering.
Okay, what's the difference there?
That's more deliberate. It's where workers, often collectively, hold back to keep the bosses from knowing how fast the work could actually be done.
Ah, so it's a kind of defense mechanism.
Exactly. To stop piece rates being cut, or just to avoid being pushed harder for the same money.
I can totally see that. He gave some examples, didn't he? Like the guy who'd run home fast but would practically work at looking slow on the job.
Yeah, or the golf caddy example.
Yeah.
The experienced caddy telling the new guy, go slow, or the others will give you a licking.
Wow. So it points to something systemic, not just individuals being lazy.
Precisely. Taylor identified three main causes for this. We've touched on the natural tendency and the systematic kind.
Okay.
But the first big one was this belief, this fallacy, he called it, of limited output.
The idea that if you produce more, someone loses a job.
Exactly. That increasing output, maybe with new machines or methods, would inevitably mean fewer jobs down the line.
That's a powerful fear. Still hear echoes of that today with automation and AI. How did Taylor tackle that argument back then?
He used history, like
Yeah.
the shoe industry. Machinery came in, labor costs dropped, shoes got way cheaper.
And demand went up.
Through the roof. People could afford more pairs. So instead of killing jobs, it actually ended up creating more work in the long run. It's a counterintuitive point, but often true.
Okay, so that's the first cause. The second you mentioned was defective management systems. Management itself was part of the problem.
Big time, according to Taylor. Things like paying everyone the same, regardless of output, or simply not having clear standards. Managers often genuinely didn't know what a fair day's work looked like.
So the system almost encouraged holding back.
Right. It made systematic soldiering a rational choice for the workers in that environment.
And the third cause: inefficient rule-of-thumb methods.
Yeah, this is about how work was actually done. Traditional methods, just passed down by word of mouth, were often, well, pretty inefficient.
Because nobody had actually studied the best way to do it.
Exactly. For any given task, there might be loads of ways people do it, but maybe only one or two are truly the fastest and best. That knowledge often got lost or was never discovered systematically. Just huge amounts of wasted effort.
So putting this all together, Taylor's vision was a massive shift. He truly believed the interests of the employer and the employee were aligned. One and the same, he said.
He did. He aimed for what he called maximum prosperity. For the company, that meant profits, sustainability.
Okay.
But for the employee, it wasn't just about higher wages. It was also about developing them to their highest potential, doing the kind of work they were best suited for.
So a win-win. High wages for workers, low labor costs for employers.
That was the goal, achieved through maximum productivity. It's a fundamental move away from conflict towards, well, mutual interest.
It sounds good in theory, but how did it differ from just, good traditional management. Taylor had a term for that too, right?
Yeah, the best type of ordinary management, he called it initiative and incentive.
Okay, initiative and incentive. What was that?
That's where managers basically acknowledge that workers have traditional knowledge and skills, and they try to encourage their initiative, their hard work, their ideas, using incentives.
Like promotions, maybe better pay, better conditions.
Exactly. But Taylor's point was, under that system, workers rarely, if ever, gave their full initiative
Why not?
because they often believed it wasn't in their best interest. Fear of rate cuts, fear of being pushed too hard. The burden of figuring out the best way was still mostly on the worker, without real scientific support from management.
Got it. So scientific management flips that script. Managers take on, as you put it, new burdens, new duties, and responsibilities never dreamed of in the past.
That's the core idea.
Huh.
And it rests on four main pillars, the essence of the system.
Let's break those down. What's the first one?
First, develop a science for each element of work. This means replacing those old rule of thumb ways.
Wow.
Management actively studies the work. They gather all that traditional knowledge, they analyze it, measure it, experiment, and then systematize it into laws, rules, maybe even formulas.
So the knowledge shifts from the worker to the management in a structured way.
In a big way. It requires planning departments, specialists. Management now owns the science of the work.
Okay, that's a huge shift. What's number two?
Second, scientific selection of the workmen. Instead of people just picking jobs or being assigned randomly.
Management actively tries to match the person to the job.
Exactly. Based on their aptitude, their physical abilities, their mental makeup, finding the right fit scientifically.
Makes sense. And the third pillar?
Third, scientific education and development of the workmen. So once you've selected the right person, you don't just throw them in.
You train them.
You train them, teach them, develop them, specifically according to the new scientific methods. Taylor called this intimate, friendly cooperation. It's very hands-on.
Okay, and the fourth one ties it all together.
It does. Fourth, intimate, friendly cooperation and equal division of work responsibility.
Meaning?
Management takes on the work. They're better suited for the planning, the analysis, the science part. The workers focus on executing the work efficiently using the methods they've been taught.
So it's more like a partnership, side by side, as he said.
That's the idea. A radical departure from the old way where, as Taylor put it, almost all of the work and the greater part of the responsibility were thrown upon the men. Here, responsibility is shared, but divided based on capability.
This sounds incredibly structured. I can see how some people might worry it turns workers into robots, just following orders.
That's a really important question, and Taylor was aware of it. Part of the answer lies in something he called the task idea.
The task idea.
Yeah, probably the most prominent single element.
Yeah.
The work for each person is planned out in detail, usually a day in advance. Written instructions, what to do, how to do it, and the exact time allowed.
Sounds intense.
It is. But here's the carrot. If you successfully complete your assigned task, you get a large bonus, often 30%, sometimes up to 100% more pay.
Ah, so a strong incentive.
A very strong one. And crucially, Taylor insisted these tasks must be designed so they're challenging, yes, but not harmful.
Yeah.
The worker should thrive, become happier and more prosperous, not burned out. The goal wasn't exploitation in his view, but optimized, rewarded effort.
Okay, let's see how this worked in practice. Taylor gives some really vivid examples. The most famous is probably the pig iron handling at Bethlehem Steel.
Classic. You had about 75 men looting these heavy iron pigs, 92 pounds each.
Onto rail cars.
Yep. And they were averaging about 12.5 tons per man per day.
Okay.
But after scientific study timing, Observation Taylor's team calculated that a first-class man should be able to handle way more, like 47 to 48 tons a day.
That's almost 4 times as much. That seems huge.
It seems so very large, as Taylor wrote. And this leads to the story of Schmidt.
The specific worker they focused on.
Exactly, illustrating scientific selection and training. They looked for men who were physically capable of hitting that 47.5-ton mark. Found only about 1 in 8 could.
And how did Taylor describe these men?
Well, using the language of his time, which we should note is quite dated. He described Schmidt and others suited for this specific heavy, repetitive work as perhaps mentally sluggish, like an ox. His point wasn't to be demeaning necessarily, but to say that for this particular job, you needed immense physical stamina, perhaps more than, say, quick intelligence or ambition. The system aimed to find the right person for that task and make them highly efficient at it.
And the famous conversation with Schmidt.
Right. They basically said, look, we want you to try earning $1.85 a day instead of $1.15. Big raise.
The catch?
The catch was, you do exactly what the foreman tells you. When he tells you to pick up a pig and walk, you pick it up and you walk. And when he tells you to sit down and rest, you sit down. No arguments, no back talk.
Very direct.
Very. And Taylor argued this directness was appropriate for the type of man suited to this specific work. But the real science wasn't just telling him what to do.
What was it then?
It was the discovery of the law of rest periods. They figured out that for a man handling 92-pound weights, he could only actually be under load about 43% of the time.
He needed to rest the other 57%.
Absolutely had to. Otherwise, he'd burn out by noon. It wasn't just about total energy. It was about how muscles recover from that specific strain. That was the breakthrough.
And the result for Schmidt?
He hit the 47.5 tons a day, did it for 3 years, earned 60% higher wages, and Taylor reported he was happier and better contented. Eventually, the whole gang adopted the method.
That's a powerful example of finding the hidden science in even basic labor. Which brings us to shoveling. You really wouldn't think there's a science to shoveling.
Seems obvious, right? Just pick up a shovel and go.
Yeah.
But Taylor found otherwise.
What did he find?
After tons of experiments, literally paying guys extra to shovel different materials, different ways, measuring everything they found, the optimal load per shovel was about 21 pounds.
21 pounds, why?
Because if it was much heavier, you'd tire out too quickly over the day. If it was much lighter, you weren't moving enough material with each motion. 21 pounds was the sweet spot for maximum total tonnage per day.
But different materials weigh different amounts.
Exactly. Before, guys might use the same shovel for heavy iron ore, getting maybe 30 pounds a scoop, and then use it for light rice coal, getting only 4 pounds. Totally inefficient.
So what was the fix?
Management provided the right tools. They created a whole set of standardized shovels, maybe 8 or 10 different types and sizes.
So you could always get roughly 21 pounds, no matter if it was ore or coal.
That was the idea. They even built a special large shovel tool room.
And managing 600 shovelers across a huge yard, that must have been complex.
It was. They had a detailed system. Each man got written instructions daily, what to shovel, where, which shovel to use, and a daily report card.
Her report card?
Yeah, a white slip if you hit your task, a yellow slip if you fell short. Taylor noted, even foreign workers who didn't speak English understood the color system instantly.
What about coordination, moving people around?
They had clerks in a planning office, like playing chess, using diagrams, telephones, messengers to direct men to the next job, cutting out idle time waiting around.
And if someone struggled, got a yellow slip?
They didn't just punish them. They sent a competent teacher out to help guide, encourage, figure out the problem. Maybe the man wasn't suited for shoveling and needed a different job. Taylor stressed this kindly cooperation.
The results must have been significant.
Huge. At Bethlehem, the workforce dropped from maybe 500 down to 140. Average tons per man per day tripled, from 16 to 59.
Wow.
Wages went up 60%, from $1.15 to $1.88. And the cost per ton for the company was cut in half. Massive savings, like $75,000 a year back then.
And the workers' attitudes.
Taylor claims a big shift. They became more sober, saved money, started seeing managers as helpful, not just, well, he used a harsh term common then, nigger drivers, to contrast the old way with the new cooperative approach.
Yeah, that language really stands out. It highlights the rough environment Taylor was trying to change, even if his own descriptions can be jarring today.
Absolutely. And there's another story that really underlines the power of individual task versus gang work. Pittsburgh steel mills offered higher rates per ton for handling ore.
Higher than Bethlehem.
Yeah, 4.9 cents versus Bethlehem's 3.2 cents per ton. But Pittsburgh paid the gang, while Bethlehem paid the individual based on their scientific task.
So what happened?
Some Bethlehem guys went to Pittsburgh for the higher rate, but they came back. They actually earned less.
Why?
Because of systematic soldiering in the gang system. One guy apparently said, "We watched him the fastest worker and only shoveled when he shoveled." Nobody wanted to make the others look bad or work too hard. Individual tasks broke that pattern.
That's fascinating. It shows how the system matters more than just the pay rate.
Definitely. And Taylor made another interesting observation about pay he found through experiments, that too much of a raise, like more than that 60% sweet spot, could sometimes backfire.
How so?
He claimed it could lead some workers to become shiftless, extravagant, and dissipated, sort of early, maybe crude insight into incentive curves and human psychology. Don't overdo the reward.
Interesting complexity there. Okay, let's shift gears. Bricklaying. An ancient craft. Surely that couldn't be scientized.
You'd think not. It hadn't changed much in centuries. But Frank Gilbreth, applying these principles, achieved incredible results.
What did he do?
Motion study. meticulous analysis of every single movement. He found traditional bricklaying involved about 18 motions per brick,
And he reduced that.
down to 5. Sometimes even 2 motions per brick,
And how on earth?
by eliminating waste, figuring out the exact best place for the feet, designing an adjustable scaffold so the bricks and mortar were always at the perfect height, no constant bending, saved maybe 1,000 stoops a day.
Smart.
Having bricks pre-sorted and stacked on special frames so the bricklayer didn't have to inspect or turn each one, even tweaking the mortar consistency so you didn't need to tap the brick into place.
And teaching new motions.
Yes, like using both hands simultaneously, picking up a brick with the left while grabbing mortar with the right. Seems obvious now, maybe, but it wasn't standard practice.
The results.
Output tripled, from about 120 bricks per man per hour to 350. And again, substantial wage increases for the skilled workers who adapted.
But Gilbreth stressed this wasn't just about individual workers figuring it out.
No, absolutely not. He said it required enforced standardization of methods,
Mm-hmm.
enforced adoption of the best implements, and enforced cooperation.
Enforced sounds strong.
It does. It meant management had to provide the right tools, the training, constantly monitor and help, and yes, sometimes let go of people who wouldn't or couldn't adapt to the new, scientifically proven better way.
Okay, one more example. Metal cutting.
Hmm.
Machinists. This feels like skilled work where judgment matters.
Definitely complex. Just figuring out the right cutting speed or the right feed, how fast the tool moves into the metal, involves juggling maybe 12 different factors.
Like what?
Quality of the metal, the tool material itself, thickness of the cut, the coolant being used, shape of the tool. It gets complicated fast.
So how do you give a machinist a quick answer on the shop floor?
That was the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Taylor and his team spent, well, it's staggering, 26 years, huge amounts of money back then, maybe $200,000, and tens of thousands of experiments.
Just to figure out metal cutting.
Just to develop the science of metal cutting, to create formulas that captured all those variables. But the formulas were so complex, even a mathematician might take hours to solve one problem.
Not practical for a machinist.
Not at all. The breakthrough was a special slide rule developed by Karl Barth.
A slide rule, like engineers used to use.
Kind of, but highly specialized for this specific problem. It encoded all the complex math. Any decent mechanic could be taught to use it and solve a cutting problem in like under 30 seconds.
Without reading to understand the calculus behind it.
Exactly. It democratized that expert knowledge, put the results of decades of research right into the machinist's hands.
And the impact.
Output more than doubled, using the same machines and the same workers. And the workers' average earnings went up about 35%.
Did this change how the shop was supervised too?
Oh yeah. It led to what Taylor called functional foremanship. Instead of one boss trying to know everything, you had specialists. An inspector for quality, a gang boss for setting up the work, a speed boss focused just on machine speeds and tools, a repair boss, clerks for timekeeping and routing work, even a disciplinarian, very specialized roles.
Okay, I have to ask the question again. All the specialization, the slide rules, the exact instructions, doesn't that turn the skilled machinist into an automaton? Doesn't it de-skill the work?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And Taylor had a ready answer, a powerful analogy.
What was it?
He compared the scientifically managed worker to a surgeon.
A surgeon? How does that work?
Think about it. A surgeon goes through intense specialized training. They use standardized tools, proven methods, follow precise procedures based on medical science.
Right.
Does that make them less skilled, less intelligent, less capable of judgment or innovation?
No, quite the opposite, usually.
Exactly. Taylor argued that mastering the established science of their field actually elevates the surgeon, freeing them up to handle complex situations and even innovate better. He saw scientific management doing the same for the workman.
So, providing the best-known methods frees them up.
That was the idea. It gives them the foundation of accumulated knowledge. And they were still encouraged to suggest improvements. If a worker found a better way, it was scientifically tested, and if adopted, they got a cash bonus. So it wasn't about stopping ingenuity, but channeling it effectively.
This distinction between the tools and the underlying philosophy seems critical.
Absolutely crucial. Taylor hammered this point home. He separated the mechanism from the essence.
The mechanism being.
All the tangible stuff. Time studies, standardized tools, planning rooms, instruction cards, the task and bonus system, those specialized foremen, routing systems, all the how.
And the essence.
That's those 4 core principles we discussed earlier. Science over rule of thumb, scientific selection, scientific education and development, and that intimate, friendly cooperation between management and workers. The why and the attitude.
And why is this distinction so vital? What happens if you just copy the mechanism?
Disaster, according to Taylor. He explicitly warned that just implementing the tools, say time study, without the philosophy of cooperation and mutual benefit would likely lead to strikes and failure.
Because it could be used just to pressure workers.
Exactly. He saw cases where foremen used time study like a club instead of teaching tool, and it blew up. It had to be about genuine partnership, finding the best way together, even if management led the scientific discovery.
That feels incredibly relevant today. So many change initiatives focus on new software or processes.
Without fundamentally changing the relationships of the mindset. Taylor saw that danger over a century ago.
Given this need for a deep philosophical shift, how quickly could this actually be implemented?
Slowly. Very slowly. Taylor stressed it wasn't an overnight fix. Even in a simple company, he estimated 2 to 5 years.
Years? Why so long?
Because you had to change hearts and minds. You had to build trust. He advocated starting with just one workman at a time, prove the benefits to that person, let others see it works, then gradually expand. You couldn't just impose it wholesale.
Okay, let's circle back to that pig iron example. Output goes up nearly 4 times, wages go up 60%. To modern ears, that still sounds potentially unfair. Why shouldn't the worker get a bigger slice of that massive productivity gain?
It's a very fair question. And Taylor had a specific, perhaps controversial answer that involved thinking bigger than just the worker in the company.
Which was?
He introduced the idea of the third great party, the consumers, the public, the whole people.
How do they fit in?
Taylor argued that the primary beneficiary of industrial improvements, whether it's a new machine or scientific management, is ultimately society as a whole through lower prices.
So Schmidt handling more pig iron means cheaper steel, which means cheaper products for everyone.
That was the justification. The biggest slice of the gain goes to the consumer in the long run. As for Schmidt's 60%, Taylor argued, well, Schmidt wasn't extraordinary, the work wasn't overly exhausting with the scientific rest periods, and the productivity leap came from management science, not Schmidt's personal initiative.
So paying him, say, triple the wages would be unfair to other workers.
That was Taylor's view. It would be grossly unjust to other laborers. The 60% increase, he claimed, was scientifically determined to be the amount that was in Schmidt's true and best interest, enough to motivate and reward, but not so much as to be disproportionate, or, as he speculated earlier, potentially demotivating.
It's a different way of looking at value distribution, focusing on that societal benefit.
Very different. And when implemented correctly, he believed, this created harmony. Workers happy with significantly better wages, employers happy with better profits, and the public happy with cheaper goods. No need for strikes, just cooperation.
It's a compelling, if perhaps idealistic, vision of alignment.
He was certainly convinced. He saw scientific management as the inevitable future, something that would be adopted globally because it delivered the largest efficiency.
How else did he see it changing things?
He believed it would fundamentally shift disputes about a fair day's work. From opinion and bargaining to scientific fact, it would eliminate soldiering by removing the reasons for it.
And foster that cooperation.
Yes, that close, intimate cooperation, reducing friction and antagonism, leading to lower costs, bigger markets, steadier work, even when times were tough.
The ultimate outcome being?
An increase in prosperity and diminution in poverty. Not just for the workers in a specific plant, but for the whole community around them.
He really summed it up quite powerfully, didn't he?
He did. His 4 key phrases: science, not rule of thumb; harmony, not discord; cooperation, not individualism; the development of each man to his greatest efficiency and prosperity. That was the mission statement.
So, reflecting on all this, what does Taylor's century-old vision mean for you listening today? In our world, which often emphasizes agility, individual creativity, maybe flatter hierarchies, what can we still take away?
It's a great question. What's the value now in thinking about structured knowledge, deliberate training, that kind of intense cooperation, in achieving maximum prosperity? Not just for a company, maybe, but for yourself, for society.
Yeah, maybe think about your own work, or even just your daily routine. Where are you relying on rule of thumb when a little bit of scientific management, maybe just some focused thought and planning, could unlock more potential? Is there an equivalent of soldiering happening somewhere in your own life?
Could that messy desk, that inefficient process, that way you've always done things, benefit from a fresh, systematic look? It's definitely food for thought.